Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. A plan is just a plan. I am Leisha McKinley Beach. I am serving as your moderator for today. You are in for a treat being a part of this lively discussion that we are about to have. It is such an honor and a privilege to introduce our speaker on today, Mr. John Diggs. Some of you may have read the flyer introducing this webinar that stated that Mr. Diggs was one of the South's best therapists. But I'm here to let you know that today you will be grateful to have the South's best therapist and trainer from Mainsprings Counseling and Training Services presenting for us on today. So I'm going to turn it over to you, John, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Alicia. It is an honor and privilege to be in your company. And to everyone over there at the Compass Initiative, I want to say a great afternoon to you. And thank you for allowing me to be in this space. Listen, let us begin. I am ready to have a conversation about a plan is just a plan. We posted a picture to our Facebook page on May 21st, and this was still in the thick of things, if you can imagine, just 30 days ago. And we asked people to caption this photo. And rightfully so, we had a few responses, but the one that resonated with me most was actually one that came from a high school classmate. And she said, "This picture looks like burnout." And I agreed with her. And I gave myself license, I am licensed to ask questions, but I gave myself permission, the license to ask her, well, what do you mean? How do you manage burnout? And this is what she said. It's self-care. Self-care is super important. It's easy to get lost in the hustle and bustle of life. We have to be intentional about treating ourselves, taking care of ourselves, and celebrating successes. I love a good massage and pedicure. Restorative yoga keeps me centered and focused on the number one thing. I really value uninterrupted quiet time as well. And then she said, the key to avoiding burnout is knowing how we organically recharge. Your thoughts? And I said, well, I am not prepared to respond to that. Because the way she said it, I had never thought about how I naturally and organically recharge. And so I responded, thanking her for allowing me to see this part about being intentional and exploring our relationship. Yes, me, you, your relationship to the process of cause and effect. And honestly, I said, I'm going to chew on this idea of how to naturally recharge. And that's because over the past maybe 60, 90 days, I think April 17th is when I really start to pay close attention to how people was making it work. Meaning, how were they creating a healthy virtual space? And here is the data here. And these are some of the top bullet points here. Showing how people have created this healthy virtual workspace. In other words, how they were able to organically and naturally recharge. Now, I won't review all of these, but I'll just go over some that I think really stand out. The first one here, tell the truth about your attachments. Now, we won't go too deep into it at this moment, but I promise in just a few slides, I want to talk to you more about telling your truth about the things that you are attached to. The one that brought the most humor over the past 90 days, as I had conversations with clients who are individuals, couples, and families that are trying to find their mainspring. And mainspring means finding that thing that helps them maintain a process or a change. The thing that helped them maintain this healthy virtual workspace was getting dressed, but getting dressed fully. And what I believe they are articulating is, as people, as human beings, we are conditioned to understand what it means when we put our work clothes on. For many of us, when we get dressed, that means when I button my shirt, when I put on my blouse, when I put on my best shoes, it is now time for the day to get started. And for many of us who had the privilege to work from home, that one missed opportunity is what determines us being able to say, wait a minute, is today Tuesday or is today Wednesday? Because we're programmed to get fully dressed. So that's one thing that has helped people stay anchored. Another one is honoring boundaries. And this is both in the workspace as well as in your romantic or personal relationships. You know, when I think about supervisors that I've talked to, executive directors, they've had to do some tough work with honoring these boundaries because the transition came so fast. And I'll tell you, the truth of the matter is most supervisors, most folks in leadership, they just want to do the best that they can. And sometimes that looks like emailing you after 5 p.m. Sometimes that looks like receiving multiple calls. And so what I have found in these relationships is cozying up or aligning with your manager, supervisor, and saying, hey, this isn't just working for me. We got to do this a better way. Or the new agreement that I need to make with you is we need to be a little bit more flexible with the times in which we are responding to emails, because the fact of the matter is, as an organization, we're doing the best that we can. And that means we may have to operate outside the scope of a 9 to 5. In romantic relationships, honoring boundaries may look like developing safe words or phrases like it's living room time. The fact of the matter is, relationships, marriages, agreements, you may have been in one for 20 years and have done well in that relationship. The truth of the matter is, you probably only see your partner for 8 hours a day. Why? Because you're at work or you're asleep. And now I see you 24/7. Listen, I'm not trying to suggest that you love your partner or mate any less. It's just the fact I've been accustomed to only over 20 years seeing you only 8 hours a day. So having safe words like living room time means, hey, I'm gonna stay in the living room and I need you to go to the bedroom because I just need some me time. All right, and most importantly here, I raised here mental health therapy. During these times of uncertainty, it is important that as you are expanding and learning and experiencing you, that you're able to do it on a platform free from embarrassment, shame, and guilt. And that's what therapy can do for you, offer you a compassionate space to explore self. Wait a minute, but John, yes, I can't get a break. Well, I understand that, because whether you're at home, work, or relationship, or within your relationships, there is nowhere to run. And the fact of the matter is, our work as well as our home environments are now together in one. And so when this happens, when this blending happens, these blurring of the lines happen, that begs us to ask the next question. What is it that you are telling yourself about you? How are you showing up? And in therapy or in clinical realms, we call this exploring your narratives. Okay, let's pay close attention here. I've divided the screen into 2 sections: low perception of control, high perception of control. Because behavior is fluid, let's put this experience on a continuum, okay? Starting with the left side of the screen, low perception of control is associated with negative belief systems, while high perception of control is associated with positive belief systems. Okay, well, John, tell me a little bit more about what you're saying. I am suggesting that those who feel like I'm out of control, or I don't feel like I have a lot of control over my situation or experience, it is associated with beliefs like I'm not good enough or I'm a failure. And that's because when we feel out of control, no matter how the situation may just be messed up or chaotic, We tend to believe that everything that we are doing, it's falling apart as a result of my ability not to have control. And so what this sounds like is we lean hard on our attachments because at best, we're just trying to find a way to feel better, to have a better sense of control. And you know where we go to have a better sense of control? We look towards our social relationships and to the chaotic familiar. You see, we do a good job managing dysfunction. We do a good job finding relationships that allow us to feel good in our dysfunction, that doesn't challenge us. And so we become attached to these relationships. We become attached to ways of being that may be chaotic because I can manage the chaotic familiar. Now, anything else you're asking me to do, John, I don't know if I can do that. And that's why it's so important to understand what is your mainspring, that thing that will help you maintain a process or a change. You see, my clinical approach, I have the privilege and the honor of my clinical approach influencing my training approach. And so whether I'm dealing with an individual on a one-on-one basis or at the organizational level, we leverage kindness to help an individual find their mainspring. Let me show you how. So we've already talked about the low perception of control. Let's talk about when we feel good about self at home and at work and in our relationships. We tend to believe we have a higher level of self-efficacy, and we hold the mantle of fail and fail fast because we understand, hey, I'm in control of me. And if I did kind of okay at level 1, it's highly likely that I'm going to do well at level 2. And you begin to develop a different relationship with failure. You now understand that failure is not a reflection of me directly. It was just something new that I was doing. This new work from home, this new thing of being in civil unrest, where our country is in this moment. Listen, no one was prepared for a pandemic and the current racial tensions that we're under. But it is the idea that I don't know, and I'm going to allow myself the opportunity to fail fast and learn from my mistakes. This allows us to bet on our best self, and that is our value and the value in our relationship to self. To say things like, I wonder, how do I naturally recharge? How do I organically recharge? Because what I understand is that I'm in uncharted times. And I want to be in the position of creating opportunities where I can say, I welcome the uncomfortable unknown. Are you suggesting, John, that what you are asking us to do is to stop, reassess, and adjust? Yes. I am asking you to reassess your attachments. Yes, I am. I am asking you to look at these uncharted times and ask yourself to adjust. But this is a commitment. It's an active process. The good news is you've already been doing this. Let me show you. When we look at different levels of leadership, whether you're the executive or a spousal partner, we tend to develop plans. The executive may have the strategic plan. The program manager may have programmatic goals. Even the parent has a budget every month. But what we understand is that a plan is just a plan. And that's because these plans are created at the beginning of something, the beginning of the year, the month, the beginning of a relationship. And what we did was take our best knowledge. We explored our capacity. We even created this plan entrenched in our values and our expectations. But even in our best work and best self, we do not have the ability to control time. We do not have the ability to control when life starts to happen. Well, John, what do we have? We have the ability to respond when life starts to happen. And this reassess and adjust is about tapping into your own power, the power of the pivot. And this is nothing more than to recognize that I had a plan, and guess what? It's not working right now. And I also realized that a plan does not necessarily mean a structure or a routine. A plan is just a plan. I am suggesting, no, I'm strongly recommending that as you examine your plan, and if you see that you start to feel out of control, you start to hear yourself examining or experiencing negative beliefs, that's your telltale sign to stop and pivot and take in new data. Use this new information to rethink your experience or situation, and then start to envision your end game, or in other words, what you needed, what you wanted to look like. Most importantly, then choose. The operative word here is choose to respond and act in ways that support my end game. This is the response to a plan is just a plan. It is your ability to reassess and adjust. You see, if you are triggered or feeling a little bit out of control, ask yourself the question, perhaps I am operating under a plan that has an expiration date, and it is now time for me to reassess and adjust. Now, this isn't easy. This is an active process. You must be dedicated to betting on you. This is the power of the pivot. One other question to keep in mind as you are exploring this notion that a plan is just a plan. Hey, what is my end game? And if that plan is no longer supporting that end game, be willing to tell the truth to you about your attachments, that I feel safe when I'm in relationships that reflect back to me mediocrity, or that reflect back to me my dysfunction, or my anxiety, my depression. That's okay. Be who you are. Be able to accept your truth. At Mainspring, we say all of you is welcome. There are 3 steps. Tell the truth, set intention, and then tell a different story. The story that I'm asking you all to tell the truth about today is, sometimes you just gotta wear a badge that says, hello, I am doing my best. And that is the truth, that on most days, we are just trying to do our best. All right, I wish I could have went in a little deeper, but this was just an overview. I want to open up the floor now. I believe Leisha is still here, but are there any questions out there? I'll do my best to answer them.
And if you have questions for John, please use your chat feature. Or Darian, do we have the flexibility to take someone off mute who acknowledges that they have a question for John?
Absolutely. So if you would like to unmute yourselves, you should have the option to do so. And if you would like to speak openly, we can definitely take care of that, and I'll unmute you if you like.
So Darian, as we are waiting for questions to come in for John, I just wanted to recap a couple of things, John, that I heard you say that were so powerful for me, and I'm certain for many of the EDs that are on this call, this webinar, that I'm going to ask to hear from them shortly. But what I gathered from your presentation was I just have to give myself permission to just be in this moment right now. You said something that I felt like was so profound, at least for me, as we are ever changing in the past couple of months. And you said, stop, reassess, and adjust. And yeah. I know that that has been the plan that many of our executives within our HIV organizations, they've had to do. And it probably feels like we're doing it on a daily basis. Can you just go just a little bit deeper, into that? Because sometimes folks feel like, well, I can't speak for everybody. Let me tell you how I'm feeling in this environment. I feel like every day I'm having to tear up my little to-do list because of late breaking news. You know, something is shifting. And so now my strategy and how I serve my community is having to shift today. And some of those tools I'm accustomed to having 3 months, 6 months, a year to plan for. And literally something has changed overnight and I have to adjust. You know, kind of help those of us like me that's on that edge right now because of these ever-changing environments.
Yeah. And is your question to me, um, how do I be okay with the ever changing? Is that your question to me?
Yes, that's my question, and that whole sermon I just gave you, John. You know, how do I be okay
Yeah.
with this environment?
Yeah, it is the idea that a plan is just a plan. And most of us have experienced or have been conditioned that plans bring about a structure or a routine. And that's why we like a plan. But right now, what's happening is sometimes our attachment to this idea that a plan brings structure and routines, well, I'm not going to say sometimes, it's in this moment. That idea, that attachment to that belief is changing because you, I, many of the clients that I am, all of the clients that I'm seeing, the people I'm coming in contact with, we are having to shift daily, hourly, sometimes by the second. And what I am suggesting, based upon what I've seen that has been helpful in clinical practice, it is the belief that the way in which I see things, these attachments, I have the right, I have the responsibility, I have the power to change the way and how I determine what feels safe. You have the right to think about your new way of how you can recharge, stay grounded organically. That is your right. But it must first begin with an examination of detaching from those things that traditionally make us safe. So simply put, when we give up these attachments, it allows us to say in moments of trauma, in the moments of crisis, you know what? I value me. I love me. And I'm going to let go of these false and unrealistic expectations because I value me so much. And even if I don't, I'm learning how to value me. And what that allows, Leisha, is in the midst of chaos and dysfunction, it allows you to have gratitude. If you can imagine saying to yourself in the midst of trauma, in the midst of tough times, sad times, anxiety filled and depression filled, with all of that going on, I'm going to choose to still do the best that I can for me. And what happens is immediately you become grateful in that moment. So now you turn your attention away from what is happening towards being grateful in this moment. I mean, after all, and the secret is most of the time we want to be validated by others, right? We want other people to tell us that we are good. What would it be like in the middle of chaos, crisis, that you gave that to you? You became your best friend. That's how we decrease or buffer against this idea of internal betrayal. Now, I'm going way out there now, so let me pull it back. So how do we learn to be okay? Ask yourself to bet on you. Ask you, what do you need in this moment? Allow yourself to examine your attachments and ask, how do they serve me? And if these attachments are not serving me, be willing to fail and fail fast. And understand, listen, I'm just grateful for being in this moment to be able to learn something new about me. That's how you unlock the opportunity. This is how you transform your thinking into welcoming the uncomfortable unknown. I'm not afraid anymore because I know for myself, even in the moments that I'm experiencing trauma by the second, chaos and crisis, I can still hold a space of gratitude. That's how we learn to be okay.
Thank you, John. I think, for some of us, it sounds so simple. But it can be a challenge because we are so accustomed to putting the needs of our staff and the clients we serve and the communities that we uplift first. And so I thank you for giving us this space right now to let us look within ourselves about what our needs are and becoming our own cheerleader to be able to secure those things. I do know that on this webinar today, that there are some amazing executive directors. And I'm going to ask them if they will use their chat feature and let us know who you are and your organization. And I know you on here because I've seen some of my amazing colleagues, Michael Banner and Chris from AIDS Leadership Foundation, AIDS Leadership Foothills, and Kathy Garner and Charles. I'm calling all y'all out. Tatiana Williams. And I'm calling you out because we want to just call you in for a moment and thank you for your amazing leadership with our organizations during this time. As John already mentioned, that it's okay, for us to have a plan, and that plan may have to change. And you have continued to serve when you didn't start January knowing that there would be a pandemic. You didn't start January knowing that there would be so much racial tension. You didn't start January knowing that some of your staff would be sick home. Some of your agencies would have to shut down, and knowing that the client's needs, they didn't change. And so I just want to pause right now to just say, on behalf of Emory Compass Center, thank you. Because I've been privileged to hear from some of you how you are still providing these services and still protecting your staff in the midst of what has been one of the greatest challenges of our lifetime. And what I'm going to ask you to do, because I'm not in the trenches like you are. And I don't know what it was like to wake up one day and know that our agency structure literally changed overnight. But I'm going to ask some of you if you will share with us what that experience was like and how you're doing today as you had to make these transitions. And so I've seen some of you, Michael Banner from Here's to Life in Atlanta, he's chimed in. Kathy Garner from AIDS Service Coalition in the big city of Hattiesburg has chimed in. Chris from Alpha in Hickory, North Carolina. And I want to start with those three in that order. So Darian, I think you said that Michael and Kathy and Chris, they can unmute themselves. And if you all would take just a few minutes, and Michael, we're going to start with you, just kind of share with us maybe the greatest impact that has happened for you and your organization because of COVID, and how are you all doing today?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It feels like a support group here. Certainly provided me a platform to at least take a deep breath and reimagine my life going forward as an ED. It's been total chaos here in Atlanta for me in the organization. And it's been this past week that I've been able to get some breathing room and begin to really think about going forward with success, some level of success. I don't know, we work with indigent clients that are homeless, probably one of the most difficult communities to deal with, to support anyway. And when they're in crisis, I like to say that I can leave that at home, but it's not been that easy of late. So, I don't know. Some of my funders have been late in providing the reimbursements, and it's just been really crisis mode for a minute. And I'm just glad I'm here today. I feel hopeful again. And this is part of my healing, being a part of this conversation today. But we're good today.
And Michael, just so that you know, even though I'm the only voice that you get to hear, and John and I are the voices you get to hear on the webinar, it's a whole host of cheerleaders that are behind you know, and that are celebrating what you have endured with one of the most fragile populations that we've had, we serve anyway. But to have to serve this population in the environment that we have been in, you know, thank you is not enough. But just know that I hope you are feeling the energy and the support and the love from the people who are on this webinar, who they know what you're going through. And we just uplift you in this moment.
Thank you.
Miss Kathy,
Hello,
how are you? I'm so glad to hear your voice. How are you?
well, we're doing okay. You know, when this first started, we immediately had one of our staff lose their father to COVID. And so that is how this pandemic really started for us. So I have to tell you that in many ways, this has been an opportunity to change how we do things. We had to, you know, outreach means you go out. How do you do that different? To a person of our 23 staff people, every single one of them has said, we think our services are actually providing more service to our clients than we were before. We've found new ways to serve. You know, it's hard for me personally, and I got a little teary when I was listening to Michael, because I'm there with you, my friend. This has been challenging, and it's hard to separate home from work. I mean, we are working in crisis mode, and you know, we get a call and we have to react, and that's fairly normal, but it's happening rapidly now. I think that, you know, we serve homeless people and people living with HIV. So I think probably what the two things that I've taken from this is that we are more nimble than we think we are, and that my managers and my staff are the most dedicated people that I know. So there you go.
And Kathy, I don't know if your staff are on, but I know that to hear leadership say that in the midst of everything that we are facing, you know, and in the midst of all of these changes, that I still recognize that you guys are the bomb, you know, that you go above and beyond that goes such a long way. And I hear what you're saying with us, but I also would like to know from you, what are some of the things that you've had to put in place, for the staff to keep giving it all they have in the midst of all these things that are occurring?
We have, I guess I'll break it down in several different ways. In outreach, we had to stop doing HIV testing for a while, but we continued to do outreach. We continued to have support groups. Through social media, we've found new ways to educate people, and have actually brought more people in to the fold with outreach than we were before. It was a challenge, and my outreach staff accepted it. With housing, we've had to figure ways to do Zoom case management, or by phone, or how do you do a house inspection from afar? So with housing and with how we do operations, we've got somebody in the office every day, but whoever goes in that day, we have 5 different offices. Whoever goes in that day wipes it down when they leave and comes in the next day so that everybody is safe. So we've really changed how we do business, and I think some of the things will continue, because I truly think that especially our housing clients have gotten more, and in some cases better, case management than they did before.
And so I appreciate you uplifting the silver lining in this cloud. And any time that, there's an opportunity to scale up our efforts or increase the quality of service that we are providing, I see that as a best practice. So thank you for sharing that best practice with us. And Miss Chris from the big city of Hickory, I would like for you to share as well with us just the health of the organization and how you all are making these adjustments. And was there something that John said that you felt was uplifting or encouraging that you will share with your staff as well?
Hi, yeah, this is Chris. I guess first I want to echo what Kathy said about having to be nimble. And I feel like the staff has done an amazing job. We've had to rethink every single service we offer. We do case management, transportation, housing navigation, PrEP navigation, a syringe exchange, testing, outreach. I know I'm missing something, that every single thing that we do, we've had to rethink how we deliver those services and then rethink it again. And I feel like as far as the health of the agency, we are lucky, unlike Michael, that we are getting reimbursed in a timely fashion from people that should be reimbursing us. But I feel like the first month of this being at home was a scramble and crisis while we tried to figure out what the heck we were doing and what we needed. And then we kind of settled in for a little bit. And now I'm really seeing the stress of the situation affecting the staff and myself. And that's really challenging to watch the people that you really care about struggle with and not being able to really help. Now we've done some stuff organizationally, just kind of some extra perks for people and been real flexible with schedules and things like that. But that's, I think right now, that's my big challenge. And then I'm just thinking operationally, the case managers, we've outfitted them all with cell phones, which they've not had before, and laptops and printers, and got video conferencing software and secure texting software. So they're able to provide services to their clients pretty much without interruption. Our testing we've suspended for now. We don't have access to PPE. We also don't really have any guidance on a safe way to do testing services. Our syringe exchange, we're doing kind of contactless drop-offs where people come to our fixed site and tell us at one door what they need and pick it up from another door at a safe distance. And then we take out our mobile unit. I think it's every week, and do some kind of mobile fixed site for other counties. And then our prep services we moved online, and our education and outreach, we are offering Zoom educational meetings for that. Not sure if I answered all your questions.
No, you did. I mean, it sounds like that even in spite of what is happening, the organization is still moving forward in how they've retooled to provide services for your communities there in North Carolina. And John, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Chris said something that I'm gonna ask you to speak to. She said, even with all of these changes and the staff, doing a phenomenal job, that the stress is taking a toll on them. And I'm going to ask you to speak to that, if there are tools or things that you can share with Chris for her staff. And I'm also going to ask you if you can speak to something else that Chris said when she said, it's frustrating when I don't know how to help them with that. So if you can just give us some tools or encouragement on how to address that.
Yes, can you still hear me okay?
Yes.
So tools for staff, and I think the slide that's up now creating, well, first, I can't go further with just not acknowledging what the executive directors have said. And I think what we're all looking for in this moment, it's not you're doing a good job. I think what we need to hear is that I see you and I get it. Because there is no apology, there is no thank you that can cover the amount of space that we are responsible for. No thank you can adequately articulate how well we are rising to the challenge. I don't think it's possible. I don't have a thank you big enough. So I just want to recognize you all by saying that I see you. Tools for staff. Literally, this data that I'm bringing you is 90 days worth of information that my clients, people that I provide executive coaching to, is saying it works for them. And so one tip that I'll help you or suggest is finding enjoyment in the repetitive or the mundane. Right now, you may feel restricted in not being able to leave your home or not being able to see loved ones. One example of finding enjoyment in the repetitive and mundane is cooking. I'll be the first to tell you, I love my pressure cooker, and so I don't do too much around recipes. But that 30 minutes of cooking, Leisha, I am trying to teach myself how to cook better. And what it does is allows my mind to be in a space of creativity and connection with something greater than me. Oftentimes we get this because we are able to go hang out with friends or we're able to connect in different ways. What I am suggesting is finding how to go to that special place within you, that creative space in you, by examining the repetitive and mundane things that we naturally do and find out how to take it to the next level, how to jazz it up a little bit. Here are some other tools here that I will include. Well, I can't go without saying anything about healthy diet, very briefly. Now, healthy diet in this sense means I cannot stick to my meal prep at this time. And you know what? Because I have had that kind of day, I'm going to eat this cinnamon bun. And that's literally the information that I'm getting back as a way to manage stress. I realized that the way in which I was doing things before, I'm going to have to bend a little bit. I'm going to have to be a little more flexible and retool my own practices at home. As far as the executive directors, I don't know how to help them. With compassion and kindness, I say this. That is where the stress reduction begins. That's where the healing begins, by acknowledging your truth. There was once upon a time where I was very effective in doing X. Because of where I am today, I don't feel so adequate and I don't feel so good about my ability to help. By acknowledging that truth, it allows you to break away from these standards. It allows you to break away and be present in the moment to reassess and adjust. And when you do this examination, Leisha, you may find that in these small spaces of readjusting, you're actually doing really good, considering what's happening. And once you're able to do that, you can start speaking and moving in gratitude. And when you can speak and move in gratitude, that's when you create opportunities and you rise to the level.
John, thank you. You know, as you were talking, I was listening to you, especially around the cooking, and you know, I've had to cut back because my family thinks that the 19 and COVID-19 stands for how many pounds they can gain during this period.
Okay.
But you know what I have found though is we've been pulling out, you know, board games more, and playing, you know, different games as a family. We are all music lovers, and my husband does this thing about who did it better, you know, Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston, because he knows that they're gonna get a rise out of me with that. Yes. And before I know it, I'm like, guys, we have been talking about this for 2 hours.
Yes.
You know, but during that 2-hour period, I didn't think about, you know, the number of new cases. I didn't think about, you know, what's happening in the city of Atlanta. I didn't think about any of those things. For 2 hours, I didn't feel like an advocate. You know, I didn't feel like I had to have social justice in the forefront. I just had to show my family that Whitney Houston did it better.
Yeah.
You know, and so I thank you for taking us there, you know, for a moment. And that's the message, you know, to the EDs, that so many of you, because I know many of you are Superman and Superwoman within your organization. And it's evident because I hear it when I heard you speak on today. But there comes a moment when you have to acknowledge that if you are down and you're not able to go, then the agency is not able to be at full capacity. And so it's okay to take those moments and utilize these tools that John has shared with us for yourself first. It's kind of like, I know that mothers struggle with this, those of us who fly, and you hear the instructions that you're supposed to secure your mask first, and then, you know, secure those who may be around you. And as a mother, that's so hard to do, because I'm thinking, I need to give my child the best fighting chance, so let me help them first. But the reality is that if I don't take care of me, then I'm leaving someone vulnerable who really needed me to be there. So I say this to you as we open up for final questions. Every now and then I have to give my own self permission that it is okay to take the entire weekend off. They will not end the HIV epidemic this weekend. And if they do, I've already given my contribution, so that's a good thing. And so that's part of your homework assignments, directors. That you have to find some ways to take time for any executive directors that I didn't acknowledge that's on the call. Please use your chat feature. We want to celebrate you as well. We want to say thank you as well. All right, Chris, I see that one of your staff from Alpha is on. I hope that you got a chance to hear from your amazing director of how she wants to reduce your stress levels as well. Prism Health in North Texas, Prism Health North Texas and Dallas, Texas. Thank you, Sadie, so much for being on the call, and thank you for all that you do. All right. Well, if there isn't anyone else, we're not going to hold you just to be holding you. I just want to say I have enjoyed myself on today. We do have a poll. Thank you, Darian, for reminding me. We do have a poll that we'd like for you to complete. It'll take 10 seconds on your way of transitioning from the webinar on today. We just wanted to know those agencies that have had to close at some period during COVID, which means that you weren't providing any services at all. And so if that's your, organization, just click yes. We also wanted to know, are you accepting clients? Folks do contact us to find out which organizations are open, what services may be available. If you are accepting clients, are you accepting now by appointment only? And then were you able to provide hazardous pay to any of your staff? I know some of our organizations have talked about that they provided hazardous pay. And we're asking this, so we may be reaching out to you to be a presenter for our webinar, maybe a future webinar that talks about what that process was like. So Darian, you can start the poll. Darian, are you still with us?
Yep, it's on now.
Okay. All right, so I'm not seeing the poll, but I'm technologically challenged. So is it in a chat feature or where is it showing up?
It should be showing up right in front of everyone, or it should be popping up at the bottom.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
one of our viewers said they saw it. Okay.
Yeah, it's
All right,
populating
awesome.
on the screen now. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So we ask that you complete the poll. And as you complete the poll, we just want to thank you again for participating on today's webinar. And we We do hope that you continue to be safe, be happy, and be blessed. This concludes today's webinar.